most people think Bitcoin rises and takes over when fiat dies, and Bitcoin has to kill fiat, and that fiat has to die if Bitcoin is going to rise. But it's entirely plausible in my mind that we just continue with the same trend that we've had over the last 50 years with fiat and over the last 15 years with with Bitcoin. And that Bitcoin continues to appreciate, fiat continues to depreciate. The fiat economy becomes smaller over time because inflation is destroying value and because people move from fiat to Bitcoin. And the Bitcoin economy gets larger over time. Extrapolate that over another 10, 20 years, 30 years. Eventually, the Bitcoin economy becomes bigger. And we have a Bitcoin economy that dominates the world. And fiat continues to become a less and less significant part of the world economy. In a sense, this is what's been going on over the last 10 years. We're repricing everything in sats, and we're redenominating the entire world in Satoshis. So, they just need to, everything else needs to drop another 90% and in Satoshi terms, and the Bitcoin economy grows another 100x or so, and then the world is effectively on a Bitcoin standard. So I've stopped waiting for fiat to die, and I'm just enjoying Bitcoin grow.
You're enjoying Bitcoin winning. So this reminds me, we were doing a panel yesterday at the conference, and you said the Bitcoin price is the only thing that matters. And I guess this is why, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the scoreboard. I mean, it's a lot of people have this kind of, it's the anti-capitalist mentality, as Mises calls it, where people think that wanting to be financially secure is morally dubious, that you're a bad person if you care about securing your kids. If you don't want your kids to be debt slaves, then you're a selfish, evil, sociopathic person. Just like people who want to keep the value of their money. These things are pathologized in modern fiat society because that's government propaganda. They need your money. And they need you to be a slave, and they need your kids to be slaves, to pay taxes and to suffer from inflation. So if you try and find a way around this, you get a lot of social disapproval. You get a lot of hate. So I think ultimately it's just, I think the propaganda is what continues that, but I think in the real world, people are just going to continue to behave in a way that benefits them. And the real measure of how Bitcoin succeeds or fails is just how big the market capitalization of Bitcoin is. It's, if you're thinking about the market for shoes, there's total addressable market, 16 billion feet on Earth that you have to cover with shoes, roughly. And if you have a chunk of that market, somebody else doesn't. Mm-hmm. And it's how much of that shoes can you take in that market. And then Bitcoin is in the market for money. And money is the biggest market of all. People don't think of it that way, in the same way that fish don't understand what water is. But money is a market itself. We don't think of it that way because government generally wants us to think of money as just being the neutral layer of a market. A market is something that is happening.
It's built on top of money.
It's built on top of money. Mm. But money itself is a market. And that's the powerful Austrian idea. And once you think of money as a market, you realize it has a total addressable market, which is all of the world's cash balances. All of the money that people hold for the sake of money, not as investment and not as... the wealth that people hold not as consumer goods and not as investments and as capital goods, as money, as liquid wealth, things that they hold so that they can spend later. And that's about $300 trillion if you count physical money, checking accounts, savings accounts, and government bonds, which I would count as well, and gold. That's about $300 trillion. So Bitcoin is already at $2 trillion. So it's less than 1% of the total addressable market. But if it's at 50%, if it's at 60, 70%, then it's one. And then, it doesn't matter what people think. So if Bitcoin goes up 100x from where it is right now, if we're at $9 million or $5 million or something like that, Bitcoin is the biggest monetary asset in the world. The cash balances in Bitcoin exceed everything else. Bitcoin is the world's money. That's it. It's game over. And that's just about the price. So the harder we pump the price, the more Bitcoin is winning. It offends people that somebody could write a book and be so intellectual about Bitcoin and then just sound like a total moon boy cheering on the price, but that's ultimately what it is. Bitcoin is a price technology. It's really all about that number, because the higher that number goes, the larger the size of cash balances in Bitcoin, the more successful Bitcoin is as money. And the more you are able to use it as money, the more wealth is stored in it, and the less wealth is being devalued through government inflation. So we need to move all the world's wealth into Bitcoin in order to really kill fiat. That's the long, painful way of doing this. Initially, when I first got into Bitcoin, and I think a lot of people, when they first get into Bitcoin, they imagine that because, figuring out Bitcoin and understanding the process is so mind-blowing that you imagine, all right, now everybody's going to get this and everybody's going to dump their fiat and everybody's going to go into Bitcoin and Bitcoin is going to moon overnight, $1 million of Bitcoin tomorrow. But then over time, you realize people are a lot stupider than you give them credit for. So it's going to take a lot longer. And they're going to need to get poorer before they figure it out and understand it. And we're going to take the long, scenic, ugly road toward a world where Bitcoin dominates cash balances. So it's going to be a while, unfortunately, which is sad because the world needs to get rid of fiat. But, Rome was not built in a day.